Your brain is wired to chase quick rewards. That wiring can quietly undermine your savings, investments, and even career moves. In the next 10 minutes, you will see why a tiny chemical called dopamine hijacks decisions that matter most. I will also reveal two simple, science-backed tricks to blunt that impulse and one surprising workplace story that explains why promotions and pay raises can feel like threats. Stay with me, because understanding this is the difference between impulsive spending and intentional wealth growth. Dopamine is often called the brain's reward messenger. It signals anticipation and motivates action. Important note, dopamine rewards wanting, not necessarily liking. That means the surge happens when you expect a reward, not only when you receive it. In finance, this creates a bias toward choices that offer quick emotional payoffs. Neurologically, spikes in dopamine strengthen learning about cues and shortcuts. Over time, those cues become habits. So a notification, a sale banner, or a tempting app triggers the same circuitry you use for food or social praise. This is why financial decisions feel emotional, even when we think they are rational. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to reclaiming control. It shifts the conversation from willpower to architecture. Instead of blaming yourself for poor choices, you can change cues, friction, and timing to work with your brain rather than against it. Once dopamine is involved, a handful of predictable behaviors emerges. First, impulsive purchases. The thrill of a fast buy feels like progress toward happiness. Second, chasing novelty. New gadgets, new platforms, new investments promise excitement and produce dopamine spikes. Third, loss aversion amplified by emotional intensity. A small loss feels bigger when dopamine primes you for regret. Fourth, social comparison. Likes, feeds, and status cues become potent triggers for spending to signal identity. These behaviors are not moral failings, they are brain responses. The practical insight is that each behavior is triggered by identifiable inputs: visuals, sounds, timelines. When you map those inputs, you can design countermeasures. For example, delaying a purchase, adding cost friction, or changing notification settings removes the cue. The brain then learns new associations. Over weeks, the overactive reward loop quiets. That is how habits change at scale, and why knowing the triggers matters more than raw discipline. Instant gratification is the financial enemy disguised as pleasure. When you choose immediate reward, you trade future value for present feeling. The brain discounts delayed outcomes disproportionately. That explains why a small immediate pleasure can outweigh a much larger future gain in our minds. Consider a simple everyday scene. You walk past a bakery, the smell hits, and you buy a pastry. You feel good now, spend a few dollars, and move on. Multiply that impulse across coffee runs, digital purchases, or recurring subscriptions, and the impact compounds. The key insight is that gratification is amplified by cues and timing. The later a reward arrives, the less appealing it becomes neurologically. That is why setting intermediate milestones, visual reminders of future benefits, and pre-commitment devices helps. They convert a distant reward into a sequence of nearer, dopamine-friendly wins that protect long-term goals without forbidding short-term enjoyment. Let me give 3 clear examples you see every day. 1. Flash sales that make a purchase feel urgent. The time pressure spikes wanting. 2. Subscription creep, where low monthly fees feel harmless but add up. Recurring charges hide cumulative cost while delivering steady, small rewards. 3. Investment window chasing. Jumping into the latest hot asset because others are celebrating triggers FOMO and dopamine-driven risk-taking. Each example shares a pattern, a strong cue, a simple, rewarding action, and minimal friction. These characteristics make behavior easy and repeatable. The antidote is to identify the pattern and interrupt it. What seems trivial in a single moment can become a habit that drains net worth over years. Spotting the pattern allows you to insert pauses, accountability, or a default alternative. A short pause rewires learning. Over months, the brain stops associating that cue with an immediate reward. That is how small structural changes produce big financial differences. Here are concrete, science-backed strategies that blunt dopamine hijacks. First, increase friction. Make impulsive actions harder. Add a 24-hour rule. Remove payment info or use a wish list. Second, create frictionless wins for long goals. Automate savings and investments so the brain still gets small positive feedback without decisions. Third, replace cues. Turn off push notifications. Unfollow influencers who promote spending. And clear shopping apps from your home screen. Fourth, use pre-commitment and commitment devices, like scheduled transfers or public accountability. Fifth, reframe rewards with immediate healthy substitutes. A short walk, a social call, or a small non-spending treat. These moves directly address the anticipatory circuit. Remember the open loop I promised about simple tricks? This is it. These techniques are low drama and high impact. They do not rely on heroic willpower. They change the environment so your natural reward system supports your plans instead of sabotaging them. Money is identity and practice. At work, dopamine isn't only about shopping. It shows up in promotions, titles, and status cues. Consider a career moment. A manager hesitated to ask for a raise because she equated negotiation with being aggressive. That identity cue suppressed a clear financial opportunity. She felt that she would betray her values by negotiating, so she left money on the table. Changing that required reframing. Negotiation became a professional stewardship rather than aggression. She practiced scripts and small wins in low-stakes conversations, which produced new dopamine feedback loops tied to confidence, not threat. This is the workplace story I can remember. It demonstrates how identity and reward interact. To reframe goals, tie them to identity-based mini rituals. For example, celebrate a budget win with a public note to a mentor or track progress in a habit journal. Those rituals create social and psychological rewards that reinforce long-term behavior. Now put this into practice with a short experiment. For 1 week, pick one common cue that triggers spending and career reviews. Map the cue, the action, and the immediate reward. Then choose one change, add 5 minutes of friction, automate a transfer, or replace the cue with a ritual. Watch how your feelings shift. Keep a 2-column log, cue and outcome. After a week, review for patterns. Small experiments are low risk, high information. They teach you how your brain responds. Over time, repeated experiments reshape those habits and identity. This process can be forward and well-simple. It converts abstract advice into real you do not need perfect control. You need intentional architecture and curiosity. That is how dopamine becomes an ally instead of an enemy. If this shifted how you think, try one small change this week and notice the results. If you want more practical frameworks on wealth psychology, subscribe and hit the bell. No hype, just behavior. Dopamine drives wanting, not liking. That wiring creates predictable spending and career behaviors. You can change cues, add friction, and automate wins. Use identity rituals to make progress sustainable. Small experiments teach more than rules. Over time, these choices compound into real wealth. Start with one cue this week and see the difference.